If today is your first time joining us on the channel, you're welcome to the channel. My name is Onokifa Edith and I am a tailor. Yes. And in today's video, we're making this beautiful skirt, Ankara short skirt. I actually saw it on Nancy Isimeme's body and I was like, girl, you need to recreate this. Yeah. And so I did my own version of it. What I ordered versus what I got. So if it's something you like, make sure you watch the video to the end because you're going to be seeing some things that was said in the video on how to actually achieve that skirt. Also, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please hit the subscribe button. Give the video a thumbs up if you find it useful, and you can also share to other persons you think might love to see such content. Now, without any further explanation, I want us to start off right now.
So I folded my pattern paper in two, and that is for the front panel, the front piece of the skirt. So I'm just going to draw a straight line, and from there I'll be taking my hip placement and my full length. Remember, the skirt is a short skirt, so whatever length that you deem best for you, you use. But for me, I'll be using a 17 as my full length for the skirt. After that, I'm just going to strike a line around it. So taking the line so I can know where to make my measurement from. So the first line is our waistline. Those other lines are my hip placement, while the third line is the length of my lining, and the last line is my full length. So I'm just going ahead to inscribe the line placement so I wouldn't forget them. So after that, the next thing for us to do is to take our waist measurement. Whatever waist measurement you have, take it on the waistline and add your seam allowance. For me, I'll be taking 1 inch as my seam allowance. So my hip is 36 divided by 4 plus 1 inch. So I'll take the mark there and the mark there still. Then for my full length, I'll be taking my hip measurement plus the allowance minus 1. So I'm going to measure everything there, as you can see. Take it also and minus 1 inches from it, because I really want my skirt to be fitting at the bottom and not loose. But if you want yours to be loose, it's totally fine. But for this, it's going to give you a more fitted bottom. So what I'm going to do now is to connect the lines from my waist to my hip measurement down to the full length. The way I'm calling it full length as though it's long. Yes, to the full length. So I'm going to be going in now with marker pen, so the line will be more visible for cutting. I'm just going to connect the lines together and connect it down to the bottom part of our front skirt. So guys, if you've done this already, congratulations. It's just a basic skirt pattern. So now we're going to be going in with our darts. So you're just going up and mark your darts at your waist line. Then after marking your dart at your waistline, you can mark it. Also, I'm going to go up by ½ inch at the waistline. Sorry, the camera was not positioned rightly, so we couldn't really see it. So now this is our front skirt. So that's our waistline plus the ½ inch I went on top for seam allowance. Then our dart, I always like notching my darts even on pattern papers. I don't know why, but I think it's much easier that way. So I just did the notching and just try to see my pattern, how it looks, feel it, that kind of thing. So the next thing I'm going to do is to cut the back panel of the skirt. I'm just putting the front skirt piece we just cut on a fresh piece of pattern paper. Then I just tape it, leaving about 1 inch allowance at the side for the zip. Then I just go ahead and trace. I was tracing with a pen and I discovered that it's not really showing that much, so let me just go in with a marker pen. So just trace round the skirt, the hip area. After tracing round the hip area, you trace also the bottom part. Then you also go ahead and trace the top, which is where your waistline is. Then once you get there, just trace around the center front of the skirt. Now you can actually cut this directly on your material, okay, but I love cutting on pattern paper, so whenever I'm in need of it, I just grab it and I'm good to go. So now the next thing we want to do is to create a zipper. Okay, it's a back zipper, so just create our zipper allowance at the back. So I would be going in now by 1 inch. Okay, 1 inch for our zipper allowance. Then I'm going to go through 1 inch and then I'm going to measure. Okay, I'm going to measure the length of our zip. Okay, so depending on the length of the zip you are using, but me, I'm going to be using a skirt zip. So for the skirt zip, I would not be needing much length, so I'm just going to take where from the skirt measurement, the waist down to where my zip will end, and I'm going to mark it like that as you are seeing on the video. Then I'm going to divide that 1 inch seam allowance for the zipper by 2. So we have 0.5 inch, 0.5 inch, and I'm going to mark in between. I'm going to draw a line in between them. So that I see just helps to create this more tight back, or more relaxed back, is not puffy out and stuff like that. So I'm just going to go straight in down. So our skirt is not long, so I'm not going to be needing a opening at the back. Okay, so that's how I create my own zip allowance. So I'm just going to connect and try to make it look really good, so when I cut, everything's going to come out just fine. But whichever case, you can do what best works for you and your body. So I'm just going to connect it and then I'm going to cut. Okay, so being here in the north, serving my country with all my strength and with all my might, even cutting this right now, not really I have where to wear it to, because this kind of dress is considered inappropriate here. So but I just really want to do the tutorial because I saw the skirt and I was in love with it. It was so beautiful. Mind you, if you are yet to subscribe, please hit the subscribe button, and if you are following, please hit the like button. Also, it really helped me and helped the channel. Thank you very much. We just cut out our back panel, and the next thing is to put it in our material and just trim it off. But please be careful, especially if you're a beginner. Be careful with the trimming. Okay, so just take your time, and give it a nice trim off, following the pattern you created. Okay, just give it a nice trim following the pattern that you created. So if you have been following all I've been saying, this is where you ought to be by now. So I'm just unpinning the entire pin I added. I discovered that I was cutting on the front of the material piece. Thank God it's Ankara. But now I'm just going to make mark on my material where the dart is going to end. I don't know, I like doing this. It makes it much easier for me. So when I'm sewing, I don't need to start remeasuring. Okay, so I just make the mark like that on the front piece. Then for the back piece, do the same thing. Put your pattern paper, make sure it's aligned, and I tried to pin it but it wasn't working, so I still try to make sure that it is well aligned before pinning. Okay, I don't want to have any excess of material in any area, so I really tried to make sure it's well aligned. Do the same thing with your material. Okay, so I did it like that, and it is not paint, so I had to improvise and use a water can to hold my material in place. And I just went ahead and cut round and round, following my pattern like you can see. The next thing is for me to also put a knot like the way I did in the first pattern, and a mark where my dart is going to end. Okay, that's not compulsory, you can choose to mark when you are sewing. So that's my front and back panel. I am done cutting them off. The next thing I want to do now is to measure. You see that pleat at the front, okay, that gather, that stuff at the front. So we want to make it, so I'm going to be using a 33 inches for the both sides, okay. And I actually hemmed one part with about almost 1.5 inch and the other part with 1/2 inch. So I'm going to be using 33. Just fold it and cut. So like this, we are done cutting, and the next thing is for us to go straight to the machine. Now the first thing I did was to cut the lining. Remember, we didn't cut the lining, so I cut the lining 2 inch or so shorter than the main fabric because I want it to bend and have that, material effect underneath. And then I notch and also give that mark on my lining, so when I'm stitching it is much easier for me that way. Now this is me going in to hold my dart. I held that separately for both the fabric and the lining, not together, but you can choose to do yours together, it's totally fine. Now this is me going ahead to actually stitch the front of the lining to the front of the material, right side to each other. So stitch with your seam allowance of 1/2 inch all through the top, and also stitch at the bottom. Now this is it, we've stitched at the top already, so now it's just to turn right side to right side again and stitch the bottom part to give it that Ankara effect. Now I'm already done stitching, and I want to create that design at the front, so I marked 3 inches from my waist measurement, and then I actually marked 1 inches below my hip. Now this is me already doing the pleating. I did it exactly on the parts I marked. So I made the pleat exactly on my allowance that I gave for the skirt, and then I went ahead, fit the back zipper. Sorry, I couldn't actually film that because I was videoing with one hand, filming with one hand, and using the other hand to demonstrate. So after I fit the zipper, I married both the front panel and the back panel together so they can live happily ever after. Now let's go for the grand review and show us 3 ways we can style this beautiful skirt.
Till we see you next time, be creative, keep making progress. I love you. Bye.